Welcome back. This is Dan from Vagabond Awake.
𝗔from Hope Adventure.
And today we're going to tell you what it cost us to travel the world this year in 2020.
2020, yes, not last year. We've been in this year 2020, so you will know that where we've been on 2020, which city, which country. Actually, we have not been to many countries this year. It's only like we celebrate New Year in Bangkok and then back to Malaysia, my hometown, for Chinese New Year, and then straight away to Philippines. It's about then like 7 months, and then back to Mexico. So right now we are in Mexico to tell you about our cost of a year for traveling.
Yeah. And while we tell you about what it cost, we're going to show you pictures of everywhere we've been to keep you entertained. Okay, here we go. But there's no need to write anything down. At the end of this video, we'll give you a link to this table and all the other information so you can look at it carefully. We started the year January 1st, 2020. We woke up in Bangkok, Thailand. We had flown to Thailand from Cambodia about 8 days before in 2019. But this report starts with expenses in 2020. And so that's what I'll cover now, our world travel expenses. To kind of give you the overview, we spent in Thailand and Bangkok, we spent 20 days. Then we went to Malaysia to visit Chung Hoi's family, and we spent 18 days in Malaysia. Then we flew to the Philippines, visited a number of cities, and we spent 231 days there. And then we went to Mexico, and we spent the rest of the year there, or 102 days. Looking at our expenses for Thailand, we spent $439 in rents, $231 in groceries, $81 in restaurants, $13 in snacks. We spent $80 in transportation, $59 in alcohol, $25 for our SIM card, and $0 in tours or visa. Although you get 30 days free visas, so that was free. And as far as tours go, we were all over Bangkok, but we ride the tram and the water taxis, and those are in our transportation costs. So we didn't actually buy any tours at all while we were there. So the cost of living for those 20 days in Thailand was $948. If you break the rent down, it's $22 a day just for the rents. That's for both of us staying in an Airbnb, 1-bedroom condo we rented there. And the foods was $16 a day. And so the total of all expenses of $948 divided by the number of days was $47 a day for 2 people to stay in Bangkok, Thailand for 20 days. The flight from Bangkok, when we headed to Malaysia, that was the first airfare we bought to see Chung's family. We took a flight from Bangkok down to the southern part of Thailand, just above the Malaysia border, and we walked across the border in Malaysia and took a train down to Chung Hoi's hometown. And so we had the first flight we bought was $123, and our personal expenses in Thailand were $347. We bought some clothes and shoes and some protein powder and a hard drive for the computer. That was $347. Once in Malaysia, we spent 18 days there with Chung's family, and it was we only paid for a hotel at the airport when we were flying out to the Philippines. We arrived the night before because we had an early flight, and that was $16. Then groceries in Malaysia, while we were at her parents', we shopped. We also went out to eat. Groceries are $144, restaurants were $39. Transportation, mostly Ubers, were $18. $108 in alcohol, and $20 for a SIM card. Was $344 for 18 days. And the $131 in personal items, some shopping and stuff we picked up before we flew to the Philippines. Our flight to the Philippines was $446. And so the cost in Malaysia, the rent per day, when you divide by the number of days by the $16, it's less than $1 a day, but that doesn't make any sense because we stayed for free most of that time at her parents. So food was $10 a day for the two of us, and we were buying food for family also. And so the total per day we spent in Malaysia for two people was $19 a day. As I said, then the flight to Philippines was $446. That's for two people, including luggage. And so we arrived in the Philippines. We stayed 231 days, and we spent $3,674. By the way, there's a table on the webpage with all these expenses broken down for you. And I'll go through them more quickly now, but you should know after I go through these expenses, I'll talk about what the total expenses were for the year and how much it would cost to live in each country if you stayed in one country and weren't paying for all the flights. So in the Philippines, the groceries were almost $3,000 for 231 days. Restaurants were $557. Transportation was $662. Alcohol was $884. And the SIM card for 231 days were $83. And tours, $325. So the cost of living in the Philippines for most of the year was $9,881, which is $16 a day for rent and $15 a day for food, or $43 a day total living costs for two people. When we left the Philippines, it was quite expensive to get to Mexico. I flew first because I had to see family. And my mother was sick, and Chung came later. But we ended up, because of the coronavirus and the last minute booking, because I didn't get a lot of notice about my mother, we ended up spending almost $3,000 in airfare going from the Philippines to Mexico. And while we were in the Philippines, we also spent a lot on personal items, $1,162, which included a computer and some other things. In Mexico, we spent 102 days. Rents was $1,821 for that period of time. Groceries, $1,173. Restaurants, $774. Snacks, $39 for 102 days. Transportation, $552. Alcohol, $829. SIM cards, $50, and tours, $501. And there's 6 months landing visa, so there's no money on visas. So the cost of living in Mexico for 102 days was $5,739, which is $18 a day in rent and $19 a day in food. A total of $56 a day for two people to live in Mexico, and we stayed there 102 days. While in Mexico, we took one flight that was $319, and our personal items were $109 we spent while in Mexico. Okay, if you look at the total cost of living for flights and personal costs, in Thailand, we spent $1,418, and that was for 20 days. In Malaysia, we spent $921 for 18 days, and $231, or forgive me, in Philippines, 231 days, we spent $14,000. In Mexico, we spent $6,167 for 102 days. If we make sense of that in terms of stationary living, to live in Thailand for a year, if you live there without the flights, you just lived in Thailand for a year, Your cost, stationary costs, annualized by country for Thailand would be $17,000 to live there for a year for 2 people at the rate we spent, which is $1,442 a month. In the Philippines, if you figure out what our daily rate was to live there and multiply it by the number of days in the year, we spent $15,614 to live in the Philippines for a year, which is $1,300 per month. And in Mexico, it would cost us $20,000 to live there for a year, or $1,700 a month. And that's a little bit high, and I'll explain why in a minute. Probably could do that for more like the Thailand price, $1,400 a month without much trouble. Okay, so first of all, the total for the year, this is 2 people living in 4 countries, including airfares, including restaurants, including all the personal items we bought, including the flights. Everything was $22,513, which is $1,876 per month for the entire month, or the entire year, 1,876. So to live in 4 countries and fly between them for a full year, it took us about $22,000. In terms of personal items, I talked about that, to give you an idea of some of the things we bought, which you may or may not buy. We bought protein powder, clothes, shoes, a new computer, a new cell phone, backup hard drive, medicine, gifts, household items. We bought a few household items when we were in the Philippines because we were stuck there for 7, almost 8 months. Masks for COVID and alcohol. Not included in the annual cost that I just recited you is business software and my student loans, accountant, and state and federal taxes in the U.S. Anomalies that I noted when collecting this data or compiling this data, 𝐵𝐶 collected it over the year. The anomalies, we stayed in, the first one, we stayed in 𝐵𝐶 family, as I mentioned earlier, in Malaysia for those 18 days. So our rent was almost 0, except for 2 days we spent in a hotel in Penang before flying to the Philippines. Number 2, the Mexico expenses were computed before the end of the year. So I didn't have complete December numbers. So what I did was I just got rid of the December numbers and I counted November twice. And so that's an anomaly in the data. The third thing is alcohol was much higher in Mexico because we were drinking in restaurants instead of at home. And we found some good wine there that was kind of expensive, and so the alcohol was much higher than we normally drink. Number 4, the fourth anomaly is we paid almost $3,000 just for the flights from the Philippines to Mexico. Normally that would have been, closer to maybe $1,800, so it's about $1,200 high. And we were stuck in 𝗤𝗎𝗓 in the Philippines for 8 months during the coronavirus, and so there was probably some savings there because we were eating at home a lot and not going out to restaurants. Again, the 4 countries we visited were Thailand, where we visited Bangkok for about 20 days. In Malaysia, we were in Alistar and Penang for about 20 days. While we were in the Philippines, before the lockdown, we visited Davao, Cagayan de Oro, Camiguin Island, Bohol, and Panglao. And then while we were in 𝗤𝗎𝗓 for the 7-8 months, we visited Siquijor and Apo Island. While in Mexico, we visited Puerto Escondido, Mazunte, and Zipolete, and of course Huatulco. And that's the full year in review. So the numbers that I think are relevant for most people, if you were going to travel the world and over the last year, you're probably going to spend about $20,000 if you live like we do. If you adjusted for the flights being last minute and adjusted down for that, 4 countries, to live in 4 different countries for a year. For 2 people, if you're cheap like us, you're looking at about 20,000. If you stayed in the Philippines for a full year, we're showing about 15,000 or 1,300 a month. In Thailand, you're looking at about 18,000 or 1,400 a month. If you're in the Bangkok area, stationary, it would be cheaper potentially in other parts of Thailand than Bangkok. And Mexico, our numbers are a bit high here because of the number of factors that I mentioned. So we would spend 20,000 a year if no changes are made, but I'm sure we could get that down to the Thailand numbers, about 1,400 a month. Well, that concludes our 2020 expenses traveling the world. Thanks so much for watching our video.
Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like it, comment, or subscribe. Our channel will grow, you'll help our business.
If you have more time, please come to my channel as well to give me like and comment and watching my video also. Yeah. And there'll be a little I up here somewhere. Click that I and it'll show you how to easily get to Chung Hoi's channel. Yes.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching our video. Click the link in the notes below this video to get a copy of this content. Plus, grab a free copy of my ebook, How I Fired My Boss and Traveled the World for 13 Years. While you're there, check out our catalog of retired cheap reports all over the world and our hobby income course that we just released. Thanks so much.